Okay, so I'm going to start at the beginning because I always feel, what does Mary Poppins say? That's a very good place, a very good place to start. And I'm going to read, the chapters are short, and I'm going to read a little bit of one and a little bit of two. Okay, so we're starting right at the beginning. Welcome to FEM, the originator of divine, semi-divine, and quasi-divine female empowerment and resources. The records department is located on the second floor, the legal department, the third, fine justice on the fifth floor. War is on the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Nemosini frowned. Another war floor? Love and fertility are on the 10th, 11th, and 12th. The grievance department is on the 13th. Flora and fauna are on the 14th, 15th, and 16th. Artifacts and ancient scripts are located in the basement. Consult the information desk for all other departments. Thank you for your contributions to humankind. Have a nice day. FEM, female energy macrocosm. The all too familiar voice floated like a breeze from above. It was melodious, lyrical, rich, feminine, utter perfection. Nemosini hated it. Even quasi-divine sounded like an achievement. Nemosini strode across the rosy-hued marble lobby, the 4-inch heels of her Louboutins clack-clacking like a woman with places to go. She tossed her head, glossy chestnut hair floating over her shoulders like Aeoli's kiss. The stories about the god of wind were frightfully inadequate. Nemosini stood before the shiny panel next to the gold elevator door, pursed her lips and blew into the panel. It was breath activated. The entire FEM building, from the security protected front entrance to the elevator to the water fountain to the lavatories. A breathalyzer for goddesses. It kept them sober. Indulging in a drinking binge with Dionysus the night before wasn't going to open any doors. Garlic breath jammed the system. Raw onions were a no-no. Halitosis, holy goddess. She locked you out of the system for 2 weeks. Nemosini, like all the other goddesses, learned to eat their favorite breath-fouling foods after a visit to FEM headquarters. Nemosini, pronounced Nemosini, glanced about and saw Ina rounding the corner. The Nigerian goddess of the harvest, promises, and justice looked fabulous as always. Nemosini! Ina adjusted the 10-strand coral bead necklace that hung like an orange waterfall over her body-hugging striped dress. Good to see you. It's been a long time. They cheek kissed, the right cheek only. Ages, said Nemosini. What brings you here? Nemosini crouched down, her blue flowered Valentino pencil skirt stretching across her thighs, and flicked off a speck of lint from the tip of her Louboutins. She emailed me. She, the CEO of FEM. Nobody messed with she. Nobody wanted to either. Emailed. Ina's dark brown eyes widened a mere fraction of an inch. Nemosini straightened up, smoothed her skirt. I thought it was strange too. Usually she or FEM sent messages the old school way, via birds, not carrier pigeons. She or her secretary spoke through a bird's twitters, not the social media platform, real birds. Naturally, no one understood it except goddesses. It's one way to identify a goddess. A woman who suddenly stands motionless during a particularly musical bird song was probably translating a message from she. Ina stepped close, lowered her voice. A real email? Nemosini adjusted the cuffs of her blue silk blouse. That's what I said. Ina put her hands on her hips. What did the email say, if you don't mind me asking? The tiniest vertical line appeared between her eyebrows, but only for a third of a second, maybe less. Nemosini looked past Ina to the lobby beyond. Everyone went about their business. Not one goddess appeared troubled or miserable. Nemosini had always liked Ina, although they were miles apart, not geographically, but in terms of status. Nemosini considered herself to be ever so much more important. Your presence is required. That's it? Ina's eyes brightened with curiosity. Mnemosyne nodded. That was it. That was it. Pretty innocuous. It could be about a multitude of reasons. Her free-spirited daughters, for one. Interesting. Ina's slim hand slipped into her Dolce & Gabbana leopard print purse and tugged out a pricey bottle of Swiss mountain water. Dilution. Thank you. You're a gem. Mnemosyne drank it down carefully so her lipstick did not smear. Purification by water was not necessary, but she always sensed when a goddess's body was not properly hydrated and therefore less fluid in thought and deed. Flow, it was de rigueur in the goddess business, which was pretty ironic since the phrase actually meant unyielding and inflexible. Femme's hypocrisies mirrored that of the world. Mnemosyne capped the lid, tossed it into a nearby receptacle. How do I look? Gorgeous and divine, Ina smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. A fake smile. The elevator door opened. Mnemosyne stepped inside, turned around and spoke to the voice-activated ceiling. Femme installed all the latest technology. Ina wiggled her fingers into a wave. By the way, you're not the only one who received an email. Mnemosyne's eyebrows shot up. Did you? The door slid closed with a vault-like finality. Mnemosyne's stomach gurgled with worry. I'm not the only one? Is this a good thing or a bad thing? The email summons meant she wanted a digital footprint, which was odd because she doesn't like leaving any kind of footprint, carbon or otherwise. Mnemosyne tapped her foot impatiently. The elevator music was anything but comforting. Lears, auls, and kithara melodies designed to infuse her Greek soul with the spirit of her people were neither soothing nor inspiring today. Mnemosyne closed her eyes, let the music wash over her. Nope, didn't work this time. Mnemosyne checked her reflection in the mirrored elevator and preened. Not a day over 30. Immortality was divine. The door swished open on the top floor. As usual, her breath caught. Leave it to she to hire the world's best architect. A woman, naturally. The optical illusion stole your breath, even a goddess's. The aerial panorama offered an eagle's eye view. On a smog-free day, a visitor saw from the mountains to the sea. It was a Mount Olympus view. Mnemosyne stepped out into the plexiglass corridor. That step alone was proof of faith since the ground was 1,000 feet below. The dramatic. She embraced it with every atom of her nebulous being, from architecture to miracles to disasters. Mnemosyne pivoted on her spike heels and headed right. Right. Always right. Because she was always right. Because goddesses were all about rights and doing the right thing. Mnemosyne moved carefully across the clear floor, a sensation like walking on air, and strode toward the only office on the top floor. Platinum doors glided silently into the walls. Ooh, this one is new. A bald young woman stood up from the pink granite desk. She is waiting for you. The CEO of Femme appointed the most stunning goddesses in training as her assistants, each with the most otherworldly beauty. Were they semi or quasi-divine? No one knew or cared much. This one was barefaced and glowing with health, a caramel-colored knit sweater clinging like a second skin to her curvaceous body. The kind of woman even a heterosexual woman would eagerly get down on her knees for to. Mnemosyne lifted her haughty chin. I am. Another platinum door to the right, always the right, glided open. Mnemosyne feared nothing. She was Mnemosyne, a goddess, a very important goddess. So why did the Swiss mountain water feel like a roiling hot mineral spring in her belly? Mnemosyne sashayed forward with the fluid, easy stride of purpose and power until her heel snagged on the silk Isfahan carpet. It broke her perfect gait for 1/10 of a second. Not good. Chapter 2. She's office was the shape of an octagon with 5 glass walls. She, her back to the impressive vista, sat on an ancient ivory chair, more like a throne, really, behind a shiny carved ebony desk. Mnemosyne dropped to her knees on the grass, ready to assume the classic posture of obeisance, forehead to the floor, hands outstretched, palms to the ceiling. The grass was a way of grounding a goddess to the earth. It smelled like heaven, green and fragrant and fresh. That's so last millennium. She swiveled around and waved Mnemosyne forward. Take a seat. Mnemosyne sat on the wingback chair, crossed her ankles, and looked with awe at She. The CEO of Femme leaned back in her chair and bestowed a kindly smile, a doting grandma kind of smile. Her face was every woman and no woman. It encompassed a spectrum of features from beautiful to ugly, young, middle-aged, old. She was all ages and ageless. She was mother and daughter, lover and enemy. At the same time, she was every race. She was change and constancy. She was all. She clasped her hands together, composed and prayerful. How have you been, Nem? Very few goddesses called her Nem, only her closest friends. Nem's stomach clenched. The Swiss mountain water swirled like a turbulent sea in her gut. I'm wonderful, thank you. Nem pushed her lips into a smile. Is that so? She tilted her head, compassion flickering across her face. Life is wonderful. Nab sat up straighter. Beautiful. Beautiful? One of She's thumbs tapped with a steady slowness. One of She's thumbs tapped with steady slowness atop the other. Nem dropped her gaze. It was difficult to look at She's face for too long. It was too disconcerting. Nem looked at She's clothes instead. She always wore a caftan. This one was tied with a thin braided sash threaded with wooden beads. It was beautiful. The wide stripes of pale blue, bronze, cream, and ginger were timeless hues, the earth's palette. Is this about my daughters? Nem prayed to goddess her stomach would not gurgle. They can be a handful at times. Is it Melipomene? She's such a drama queen. Your 9 daughters are fine, quite active in the world. She unclasped her hands and set her palms on her gleaming desk, which is why I've summoned you here. Nem relaxed, her stomach settled. This must be about her daughters. The 9 muses. What's not to like about them? Creative mortals everywhere called on them regularly. Zeus, their father, however, had little hand in their upbringing. Talk about an absentee father. Well, most of the time. Nem crossed her ankles and leaned forward, eager to hear the good news. Your daughters have increased their significance, said she. They are important, needed, desired. Mnemosyne's head bobbed with pride. What mother doesn't love hearing praise about their children? She, her eyes hardening into obsidian, poked a rigid index finger into the air as though tapping an invisible button between her and Nem. You are not. She settled back into her throne-like chair, her hands draped over the intricately carved armrests. Nem blinked. Pardon me? You are no longer relevant, Mnemosyne. No one knows who you are or what you are the goddess of. Mnemosyne touched her chest. I'm Mnemosyne, Greek goddess of memory. She's lips twitched. I know who you are. She held out a silencing palm. Do you have a brand? A what? She produced a cell phone from the folds of her caftan and pushed the device across the desk. A brand, a platform. Do you have followers? Nem glanced at the cell phone. What kind of followers? Social media followers. She tapped the phone with a long oval shaped nail. Twitter, Instapic, Snapchat, Facebook. A carabitus, a whirlpool churned in Nem's belly. You're a goddess and you don't have a Twitter account, let alone a blue check mark. Neither do you, Nem shot back. She laughed, a beautifully ugly sound devoid of mirth. I don't need one. I am all. Nem felt the roiling waters move upwards. You asked me here to tell me to get a social media account? No. She crossed her arms. Femme and Mas are merging. Mas, masculine alliance, sodality, the cosmic counterpart. She stretched her arm to the vista beyond, to the landscape of skyscrapers, factory, buildings, and domiciles. The world is always changing. We change with it. Don't throw up. What does that mean? She lowered her arm, the caftan's fabric fluttering into perfect drapes around her. It means, Nemosini, that we must clean house, downsize, free ourselves from goddesses and gods who are no longer relevant. I'm relevant, Nem squeaked, her voice without relevancy. No, you're not. She's mouth formed into her famous smile frown, pitying, beneficent, empathetic, and terrifying. Darling, you haven't been relevant for 1,000 years. I'll change. Nem slid her phone from her metallic goatskin Chanel purse. I'll create a brand. I'll start an account. How difficult can it be to get a blue check mark? She sighed. It's too late. But what do you mean? Nem's divine bones chilled to ice. Are you firing me? I prefer the term dismissed. She crossed one leg over the other. You're one of many. Moss and I are streamlining. Redundancy is neither expedient nor prudent. All the air whooshed out of Nem. Her belly constricted, her bowels twisted. What will happen to me? Nem's voice cracked, sounded human, a voice strangled by fear. She graced her with another ghastly, pitying smile. You are now barred from Femme. All your privileges revoked forthwith. Don't look so mortified, Nem. This is your doing after all. You had choices. She's finger tapped the air. You've always had choices. You chose to do nothing. Nem squared her shoulders. I am the mother of the 9 muses. Dear God, I sound pathetic. That's not enough anymore. She's fingers fluttered in the air. Look at you, wearing all the latest designer clothing. You keep current with fashion, have the newest phone, enjoy an extremely active social and sexual life. People love me. No, darling, you've become arm candy and a good time for a miles-long string of interesting mortal men. Your sex life is no concern of mine. What I do care about are the goddesses who have an inspirational brand. She stood, rounded the desk, and perched on the corner. Her Renee Calvilla crystal sandals peeked out between the silk folds. Nem swallowed. She's proximity was unnerving. Does that mean I won't be immortal anymore? She nodded. Nem lifted her chin, stared at She. How long do I have left? To live. I'm not sure. Immortality is a gift. Maybe you have 50 years, maybe 5. She shrugged. Female energy is a collective, a cyclical force of the universe. As an inactive goddess, you have been taking for a long time and not giving back. She rose and the air grew oppressive, as though her sheer might pressed down on Nem's chest and lungs. Like a fat man on top of her, the office door glided open. I've been dismissed. Forever. Nem would have cried. One thing stopped her. The thought of giving She the satisfaction of seeing a fired goddess leak precious water, proteins, lipids, and electrolytes. Besides, tears swayed mortals, not the divine. Nem rose from the chair, her chin lifted despite the tightness in her throat. Am I permitted to use the archives? The moment you leave the building, you will have no access to Femme. What if I never leave? The thought, silly as it was, dashed across Nem's mind like an Olympic racer. Other silly thoughts included throwing a tantrum and groveling. Both were beneath her. Nem had too much self-respect, maybe too much. Maybe if she was more reflective, she would have seen this coming. The truth was, immortality was a gravy train Nem did not realize she was capable of being thrown from.
Oh, that was amazing. Oh my gosh, you brought that to life. That was,
Thank you.
oh, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
This really was. I love talking about your book. I loved reading your book, and I can't wait to read more of your books.
Great. Thank you.